You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where we will be talking about England v India, the Test match series. It's coming up, and we are excited, aren't we, Max?
Yeah.
We are excited about this. Yeah. Before we get going, just a reminder: you should click like and subscribe on whichever platform you are listening or watching on. Make sure you tell a friend. Make sure you get involved. Leave us a YouTube comment. Who's going to win the series? Why are they going to win the series? Max, same questions to you. Who's going to win the series? Why are they going to win the series? Let's start the preview.
Oh, let's get straight into the brass tacks. I think it is going to be a drawn series. I think it's going to be 2-2. Going straight in for that. And the reason for that is that I think both sides are flawed, but I don't think India are as flawed as everyone in England thinks they are. Because, they don't have Rohit and they don't have Virat Kohli. And therefore, they don't have as many people that everyone's heard of that have been dominating world cricket for ages. And therefore, India's batting is actually quite bad. But I think that's a very poor misread of the situation. Your turn.
Okay.
Who's going to win?
I think England are going to win 3-2 or 3-1,
Ooh.
depending on weather. I think I, like you, actually kind of agree that Kohli and Rohit being retired in Rohit's case, probably make India a better batting side. Potentially even a significantly better batting side. However, I think India's bowling as an overall unit isn't very good. And I think that runs counter a little bit to some of the narratives I've seen knocking around, where it's kind of like, oh, India's batting, there's loads of question marks there. England's bowling, there's loads of question marks there. I actually think it's probably a little bit more like England are a fairly solid team, particularly at home. I don't think their bowling is going to be like massively exposed all of a sudden. Like there's quite a lot of bowlers that England can rely on to eventually take wickets in English conditions. Doesn't mean they're amazing. Doesn't mean they'll go all around the world conquering cricket. But I think Chris Woakes at home, good bowler. Atkinson at home, pretty good bowler. Then you've
Provided he's fit.
Yeah, whoever they go with. You've got Carse, you've got Potts, probably Sam Cook would be an effective operator. Maybe they'll pluck Ollie Robinson out of exile, bring him back. Like you could even you could bring James Anderson back, 42-year-old James Anderson. He'd probably still be very effective. And there's quite a lot of bowlers.
He's tearing up the blast.
Is what he is actually tearing up the blast. Yeah, so I think England's bowling depth at home is decent, and there's a lot of goodness. I think with India,
enough.
This is my theory. It is a little bit Bumrah or bust.
Interesting.
So there we go. There's our predictions out of the way. Cool. Should we wrap up the pod? Cool. Right. So there's. I don't think we've done it that way before. I quite like predictions. I quite like predictions up front. Max, if you want to get into a little bit more detail, though, where do you want to start with, England or India?
Well, I think let's go into India because I think that's where we've both put our. Well, that's what we've both based our predictions on, isn't it? Me saying that I think their batting is better than people think, and you saying their bowling is worse than people think. So maybe we should run through what we think their team might look like and pick apart why we think that is, because that's it's another interesting point, I think, actually, how India might line up. Because I think there's a couple of question marks at both ends.
Let's start with that. I think that is a good way of starting it. I think, because whichever way you slice it, India are going to be the team that have had the most churn since the last time we saw them, and definitely since the last time they came to England, when it was almost an unrecognisable team in some ways. How do you expect the Indians to line up?
So, caught between two minds. One of those minds might have been decided by the fact that in the India v India A game, Shardul Thakur scored an unbeaten 122 on day 3, which is very Lord Thakur. So I mean, I don't know exactly what the order will be, but Jaiswal and Shashvi Jaiswal and KL Rahul opening the batting, I think, is obviously fairly safe based on what we've seen in some of the warm-ups and how they've lined up recently. Then you have a middle order, and I'm going to go with my batting heavy version of the India lineup, which excludes Centurion Lord Shardul Thakur. Karen Nair, because he scored a double hundred in the India.
No way. This is already gone off piste.
Shubman Gill at 4, Rishabh Pant. You've got Sai Siddharthan, probably. Then some combination of Jadeja and Nitish, and then Bumrah, Siraj, and Krishna. It doesn't really matter from the batting side. It's just Bumrah's at 9, and then there's 2 people who can't bat. That has Jadeja at 8 and Bumrah at 9. However, bowling-wise, that means you need to get overs out of Nitish, which maybe in England, that's actually not a bad idea, but in Australia, he wasn't really. You couldn't really hold up. You couldn't rely on him to hold up an end, which is an issue, especially when you have. Now, they had very good IPLs. We expected them to be complete lotteries, Siraj and Lottery Krishna, but they were very competent. So maybe they won't be lotteries, but there's always a chance, especially with the way England go about their batting, that 1 or 2 of those become completely unbowlable. And then you're relying on Nitish, which is why I think we may end up seeing Shardul Thakur at 8 and one of the batters missing out. Maybe Karen Nair, maybe Siddharthan.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to decide between.
I feel like that's not what
Have I thrown you?
Expecting. Yeah, a little. I mean, like it's do the batting again. I want to try and place this in my mind. So Jaiswal and KL Rahul, we're both fairly sure of that. I think that's a fine opening combination. I think Jaiswal will be exposed a couple of times. That probably learn his way through the series. So a 5-match series are quite good fun. I imagine Jaiswal at some point will batter England.
Yeah.
I also imagine he'll be out for 5 a couple of times. KL Rahul, we've seen him do it in England, opening the batting. I think as long as there isn't some sort of weird seniority thing, which means that he has to, for some reason, or he gets to, for some reason, bat at 4, like, I can't see why he wouldn't open the batting. Seems very reasonable. So that's 1 and 2. And then you're saying Karen Nair is coming back in.
I just think they might do it. He scored a double 100. There've been all the chatter about why they picked him. It's, the experience. He's played Test cricket before. We'll ignore the fact that other Indian batters who've had recently quite good records have also played Test cricket before. He's played some county cricket. He's played in England before. It just feels like an India, brains trust decision. But yeah, it could literally it could be Karen Nair. Gill could go 3. Sai Siddharthan could go 3. And someone else could go 4. But that's sort of why I've landed on that. I think Gill at 4 as the captain, replacing Kohli.
Yeah, I feel
the natural progression of things.
Okay, I'd probably lean towards that as well. Like I'm not absolutely sure about Karen Nair at 3, but I can see it. So then your 5 for Sai Siddharthan.
Probably Rishabh Pant.
Okay.
And then it
was Sai
Siddharthan. Could be Dhruv Jurel, but I feel like he's more likely just in as backup keeper. And then you get into you're getting into the questions of, do you do NKR and Ravi Jadeja? Do you go just one of them and pick Shardul Thakur? It's
this is where I think it gets quite complicated from an India point of view, and where I think there's definitely the space for maybe bad decisions to be made.
Yeah, and this is obviously for Headingley, the first test, and before we even get into questions about whether you get to Old Trafford or the Oval and you want to actually play Kuldeep Yadav.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and actually, I think we might see quite a lot of the India bowlers get a game at some point. I also wouldn't be surprised in this 6-7 area if we got Washington Sundar in 100% as a make way 5th bowler. And this is kind of to go back to my prediction that I think England have got the slight edge across the series. This is where I think India's team falls down a little bit, because I think they know that the bowling at the moment is kind of Bumrah miles out ahead of everyone else in the world. And then in terms of what they can pick, Mohamed Siraj, like probably somewhere around like a world average test bowler, but good enough. Like you're not complaining. And then I think there's whoever the third guy is, whoever the fourth guy is, whoever the fifth guy is, it becomes difficult to see where they generate like a clear route to regular wickets. Now we know Jadeja will be in there, like he could be at 6, to be honest, and they could play extra bowlers. I think that's a possibility. And Jadeja is sort of very, very competent. I would be stunned if he blew England away over a 5-test series. I think we know Jadeja, he's fairly known quantity. I think he'll be very serviceable, pick up wickets, be pretty economical, and bowl every over in about 90 seconds. That's what we're gonna get from Jadeja.
No dropped points for slow over rates for India in this series.
So you've got it's a great way of
getting yourself into the final.
solving that problem. So that's 3 of your bowlers, and that isn't a bad start. Like obviously you've got Bumrah. He's going to play 3 or more likely, I think, 4 of the tests, and in those tests, like Bumrah, he could theoretically win all of the matches by himself. Like it's not. There is a world where that's going to happen. The next 2 positions, if Bumrah doesn't take all the wickets, I think become quite problematic for India. Prasidh Krishna might be the answer. Akash Deep might be the answer. Arshdeep Singh might be the answer. On some surfaces, Kuldeep Yadav might be the answer. Equally, all of them have got like the capacity to be next to useless. And I mean, I don't mean that in like because people love to rage, and there's probably people who can feel their blood boiling when I say that some of these guys could be next to useless, but it is like the reality of the situation. Like that is
useless. Useless in the sense of what Scott Boland was in the Ashes when England decided that they were all over the place. He was unusable, and that can happen. It doesn't mean you're a bad bowler. It just it's within the range of possibilities.
And some of them, for India to be consistently effective, are going to at least have to go for not very many runs, so that you can keep going back to the Bumrah well, as and when Bumrah is fit and capable of bowling, and rested. You can't have like Arshdeep Singh averaging 40 and going at 5.5 and over. Returning figures of 3 for 120, and expect to win test matches where that happens. And that is like a scenario that is well and truly on the table. You might even take that if Bumrah is really bowling well from an India point of view. You might be like, oh, great, you managed to get a few wickets. So I think that's where the weakness is. I haven't really helped you with the how do we solve this problem. I think India will cycle through a lot of those players. Yeah. It is also possible that 1 or 2 or 3 of them have breakthroughs and bowl really well.
Yeah.
I don't know about blowing them away, but like step up to Siraj level, right?
Yeah.
Like a bowling attack with 3 Sirajes, a Bumrah and a Jadeja. Regardless of what the Siraj is, maybe one of the Sirajes is an off spinner in this scenario. That's like a world-class bowling unit. That's fantastic. You're going to really, really, really put people under pressure. You'll win test matches in England for sure with that bowling lineup. And Prasidh Krishna probably can step up to there's definitely some talent in there that suggests he can step up to Mohamed Siraj level. It is also possible that he can't. It is probably even more likely that he can't, and that's where I'm coming at with my prediction.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think it's basically more of an unknown. There's a bit of an unknown quantity about the batting in terms of how they'll actually perform, but on paper they're all really top class cricketers, and they overall it should go quite well. And with the bowling, it's maybe a little bit more suspect, but I think there's definitely quality in there, and there's definitely I reckon there'll be a surprisingly good outing from 1 or 2 of them over the series. So I think it'll be really interesting to to watch. But I also think Jadeja's arm might fall off by the end of the series if things don't go to plan. He's going to get through a lot of work.
Not a man who's never been injured, right? And not a man who's like really young. I think, I mean, like if we're looking at a worst case for India, because it's always sort of fun to do that. I think there is a world where they just like pack Reddy, Jadeja, Washington, Shardul into a team, and sort of hope for the best. And like
batting
none
lineup
of those
with
guys,
7 bowling options.
Yeah, and like you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, surely someone will get a wicket, but in reality, like 2 of them you never bowl because there's just literally not enough overs, and 2 of them get absolutely plastered all over the place, and then suddenly you've got to deal with Washington Sundar batting after 4 wickets are down, and you're like, oh, like this is an all-rounder who's never played in these conditions, who we suddenly need to get 40 runs an innings out of. And I wouldn't like to be in that scenario if I was India. I think if I was running the India team, I'd be looking at picking. I wouldn't be going anywhere near Shardul Thakur. Is basically what I'm saying. I wouldn't be going anywhere near Washington Sundar. I'd at least start by picking the outright best bowlers and hoping that some of them, like maybe Prasidh Krishna, steps up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I might not even play Nitish Reddy, and that people would be like, "What? How can you not do that?" But I think you could if you were India. I think you could get away with an extra bat. Maybe you couldn't. Maybe you have to. Maybe you have to do that.
I think
it's confusing.
I think you need him in there. I think you need him in there. Otherwise, it's troublesome. But yeah, I think it basically says there are questions, and there are really difficult.
But then, let's get to the bottom of my thought process on that. Like, is Nitish Kumar Reddy going to be a wicket threat in this series? Yes or no? Like, is it
probably not?
Where do you set the expected average for Nitish Kumar Reddy in this series?
40?
5 tests so far. Yeah, he's averaged 40. He's taken 5 wickets in 5 tests. Like,
it might be a little lower because of where he's bowled in the past, but I mean, probably top end is going to be 35, isn't it?
I would say 40, maybe in the 40s.
Yeah.
Realistically, where do you reckon his line is for batting? Like, what do you reckon he'll average?
30.
Is that giving you enough? Like, or are you better off picking another specialist bowler, like maybe Prasidh Krishna, and you can go Krishna, Bumrah, Siraj, and Kuldeep, let's say, with Jadeja as your extra.
Kuldeep batting 8 in that scenario?
Yeah, Kuldeep is batting 8 in that scenario.
That's iffy.
But then you also get to pick. But then you also get to pick Sai Sudarshan, and you get to pick Karen Nair, and no questions asked. Like they're all fit. And,
you're saying this like it's my dying wish. I must have these guys.
I think from India's point of view, this is what I'm trying to drive at. And I know I've laboured this point loads. Like, I think they really need to think about where their 20 wickets are coming from.
Yeah.
You can't just be like Bumrah. Like, he might get 8 a test. Bumrah could play all 5 tests and take 45 wickets, and India could still lose this series 3-1.
It's possible. I think what it says to me about what India are missing, far away from what it looks like everyone thinks they're missing in Rohit and Kohli, is that the people they're missing are Ashwin and Shami.
I mean, like literally, yeah. I mean, that's not far away from the truth. I think Shami in particular, like Bumrah, Siraj, Shami. Well, those 3 plus Jadeja plus one of these fringe guys, Krishna, Akashdeep, Arshdeep, Kuldeep Yadav on the right conditions. He's obviously not really a fringe guy, Kuldeep, but maybe in England he is. That I think is like England could be in trouble. At the moment, I think there's big gaps there. Should we talk about England?
Yeah,
we kind of know what they're going to do, don't we? The only question is Bethel or Pope.
Bethel or
Crawley.
Pope. Yeah. I think it will be Crawley and Duckett, and I feel like I feel like it will be Pope to start with, and then it won't be after a couple of games. But I'm not that confident about that. There's just a little nagging thing at the back of my mind after the T20s and the ODIs that they might do something really crazy and open the batting with Jamie Smith and play both Pope and Bethel. But that would be a hell of an ask for your wicketkeeper to open the batting as the wicketkeeper, having not done it before. So I think that would be like quite unlikely. But also, I wouldn't be super shocked if they did it, even though it would be kind of dumb. Yeah, I think probably Pope to start with. Do you think it's going to be Bethel?
No. Boring answer. I think they will go with Pope. I like the Jake Bethel thing. It's like in my heart, I want to see more Jacob Bethel. Like we don't know how good he could be. He could be the greatest cricketer of all time.
But we do have some time to find out. He's not going anywhere, probably.
But like, imagine if this is what my irrational brain is saying. Imagine if Jacob Bethel is the greatest player of all time. Imagine that, and then imagine that you didn't pick him and you picked Ollie Pope instead by accident.
Opportunity cost.
Like, part of me thinks like maybe just pick Bethel until we know for sure whether he is or isn't the greatest player of all time, and then like
Ollie Pope would have retired.
And I know this is it's obviously mad hyperbole. There's plenty of evidence that Jacob Bethel isn't the greatest cricketer of all time, like the fact that he hasn't hit a professional century. Normally one of the entry criteria to play number 3 for England in a test series against India. But like there's also stuff he does where you're like, that is kind of bonkers. Like that level is like doing that thing that you just did suggests that probably there is like probably you are a slightly different level to the average 21-year-old prospect that comes in with no tests or with no professional centuries. So like, yeah, I think what I'm saying is it's fine to pick Pope. Probably it's the safe call, arguably even the right call. I think we will see Bethel by latest third test.
Yeah. I think we're both agreed on that one then.
The bowling's a little bit of a weakness for England as well.
Without Atkinson, because obviously he's.
I know I said it wasn't a weakness. Like Atkinson being out,
I don't love it without Atkinson.
It shifts it a little bit. It does shift it a little bit. I don't like. I do. I think at home the difference between Atkinson and whoever comes into the team instead of him, Bryden Cast, is that who it's going to be? It could be Sam Cook. It's probably going to cost you 3 runs per wicket. Like, and if Atkinson's due 5 wickets in a home test, so you're talking about a 15-run swing, which should be something that you can accommodate if you're England. So I don't think it's like, it's not like Glenn McGrath stepping on a cricket ball once. It's not like Bumrah being out for India. Like Bumrah's due wickets at what, 15 a wicket in England?
Yeah.
Maybe 20 a wicket if the pitches are really flat. Let's say it's 20. Let's say they're going to be really flat pitches. The next person that India could pick after Bumrah is probably 35 in those conditions. Maybe even above 35. So every wicket that you like, every time Bumrah's not on the pitch, India are coughing up 10 runs extra per wicket, probably. There's very small difference comparison with Atkinson being out for England. Like when we're not talking about that level talent. But I think for this particular first test, and we don't know when Atkinson is back, hamstrings, as they say. But maybe it looks a little bit more dicey. What are your thoughts on that aspect for England?
Yeah, I mean, so Wokes is obviously back reasonably recently as well. He played in the India A tour games and was back to being Chris Wokes in England. So I've not really got any concerns about that. I think Chris Wokes will be his usually effective self. I think from there, question about who they pick to replace Atkinson, whether it's Sam Cook, because it's an replacement of the opening bowler, although he's probably more similar to Chris Wokes, in which case you're looking at Bryden Castle, Jamie Overton probably to come in, and then Josh Tongue at 10 and Bashir at 11. And yeah, I think if you don't go with Sam Cook, then there's a big question about actually opening the bowling. And yeah, maybe if you go with Sam Cook, it's a little bit samey. I just, it doesn't inspire me. I don't look at it and think he's going to take the wickets. Apart from Chris Wokes, they've got they've got people who are effective over a certain period of time. If the ball's not doing anything in the middle overs, Jamie Overton, Bryden Cast, Josh Tong, they've got things about them that will still make it tough to score runs, which is a good thing for England to have. But I don't look at it thinking, yeah, that's a real wicket threat with the new ball. That makes me a little concerned about England's prospects. But Josh Tong wasn't great in those warm-up games either. He took a little bit of tap from that India batting lineup. So yeah, I do have some concerns about where the 20 wickets are coming from, I suppose, for England. Again, I think this is why it might, like you said, end up with some quite flat decks, because I think flat deck definitely suits the England bowling much more than India.
Yeah, I mean, where's the first test?
Headingley.
At Headingley, as flat. I don't think there's only this limit to how flat you can make Headingley.
It doesn't get that flat, does it? No. All the flat is back-ended.
And I think Headingley traditionally is probably the venue that most suits the English type bowler. So for this one as well, for the first test, I think the loss of Atkinson is probably not going to bury England. I'm looking at the weather; it's going to be warm, isn't it? But like, it only takes like 25 minutes of cloud, and you're 7 wickets down there. It's kind of a weird venue, and I feel like if you ask me who's the most important bowler for England at Headingley, Chris Wokes would be the name. So I think that's where your wickets come from. We're not even talking about Ben Stokes here.
No, that's true. Probably
come in and like there's England have got some threats. Max, we've done quite a long pod.
We have.
I don't think we have anything else really to discuss from a preview perspective. As I said, we'll be covering the matches as we go through the series. I'm really looking forward to it. Like England, India, I think is my favourite of the series. Ashes is just like it's good. I mean, like the Ashes is good. Let's be clear, but I think people overdo it sometimes. England.
There's too much aggro, isn't there, with the Ashes?
There's lots of like
too balmy army.
It is too balmy army. Yeah, agree. I think in general as well, India fans make a better atmosphere if you go and see a game live than Australian fans, who are a bit too close to English fans, but like they go up at the end of every sentence, every word. So yeah, like looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I did want to leave with one amazing piece of news.
Yeah,
Max. Netherlands v Nepal. 152 plays 152 in a T20. Goes to a super over.
Yeah.
First super over. Nepal bat first. They get 19. Netherlands tie it off the last ball of the super over. Goes to another super over. Netherlands 17. And I think this one, well, obviously, I think it's again like leveled off the last ball of the super
6
over.
off the last ball, no less.
Yeah. Goes to another super over. Nepal are out for 0.
Well, because you can't. You have to pick different batters, don't you?
No, I don't think.
Only
do.
if
I
they're
think
out.
If the batter hasn't been out, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So Rohit Paudel had 4 innings in a T20. Did a fairly decent job. The Netherlands hit a 6 off the first ball of the last super over. Is that the first ever triple super over match?
Oh, yeah, surely.
It's the only one I can think of,
Netherlands
yeah.
Netherlands won it off the first ball with a 6.
Yeah. So there we go.
Yeah, great. Good stuff.
That's fantastic. Right, look, we're done. Long pod. See you later, everyone. Catch us for some India England coverage very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.